Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? Um, I have just have every so often I have some, I don't know, just some things I want to talk about with you guys. Um, Sometimes it's really hard to put in words, of course, but I'll do my best. But um, first off, before I talk about any new thoughts I've had about nutrition or that sort of thing, diet, I want to talk about something else that's associated, I suppose, with this train of thought, and that's this concept of freedom that I have, and it there's a lot of things that I suppose can increase one's feeling of being free. Um, when you're working very hard at something and it's a long term thing and it's very time consuming, you can definitely feel less free. But the more that you enjoy it, the more that it tends to not feel as much like you're you have limited freedom, right? It's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing because we really ought to work hard, right, in life. Um, but that's you know not quite the main thing I wanted to talk about. But I might get more into that subject in the future. Um, but I think it's we do hear a lot of rhetoric about being free or not free these days, don't we? Don't we? And I mean, like, if you really think about it, there are a lot of things that we do on a daily basis that can limit our freedoms in the future or expand them. And, it really is often hard to know what those things might be. But I think we do tend to know, we should know what sorts of lifestyles and habits um, will result in just being less healthy. And again, it's the older we get, the more that we, wow, really need to adhere to the healthiest ways of living to really, be at our best. We ought to pay more attention to the elderly to the elderly that are very much full of energy and that are not just the elderly, but other folks too, but certainly anybody, approaching the triple digits, right? That it's still, man, they're alert, they're alive, they're smiling. We should we should ask them about what their lifestyles are like. Not just nutrition, but we have to ask them without pestering them, right? So what's your diet like? I really do think longevity is a big part of what a lot of people are curious about and want. You know, and it seems to be this missing ingredient for a lot of discussions about nutrition. But just to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about here, it's often thought that the stronger that you are, the healthier you are. The more muscle mass you have, the healthier you are. Uh, well, if you have a whole bunch of body fat, that's not healthy, right? Some is okay, sure. Do we need massive amounts of muscle? Uh, Probably not. Any time that our bodies are bigger, and the bigger that our bodies get, um, the more strain it can put on our heart. You know, that's just the way it is. Muscle, of course, is much healthier than having fat. I definitely think that's if you want to get bigger, that's the way to get bigger. But it's for a lot of folks, I think it is better to be in better shape cardio wise. But it's also important to maintain your muscle mass. That sort of thing. We do need muscle. We just put a lot of emphasis on muscle, especially for guys. But anyway, so there's that whole muscle thing. There's just how good in shape you are, and that's a better indication of, I think, overall health somewhat. But exercise has its limits still. I mean, it's a really good thing though. And again, we all know nutrition is integral to good health and getting enough sleep every night. And then stress is a weird thing because, is the person with the lowest levels of stress the healthiest person in the world? It's the person that is truly the happiest person, maybe the healthiest person in the world. It's a tricky thing because we can't, we don't want to. It's hard to. It's really really hard to, say, oh, this person is so stressed out, and that's not good for your health. So stop being stressed out. A lot of people are under tremendous amounts of stress their entire lives, man. This is not the sort of thing that a lot of people want to hear that are really stressed out as well. I don't think that the subject is also as very well understood. And also, getting to the the whole holistic thing. There are a lot of folks we should listen to from India that often talk about all these connections between our physical health and spirit and emotions and happiness and that sort of thing. Now, of course, we talk about this in my church, but man, the Indians have some great things to say. Hindus, absolutely, man. You don't have to believe in the chakras or anything. It's just they have a lot of insights, man. They really do. Same thing with the Asians a lot of times, but man, I would listen to Indian sages and stuff. Absolutely. So longevity, right? That's a really freaking big deal, in my opinion. One of the biggest things. But it's that whole skin health thing is really, really kind of stupid. I'm not going to say who I'm talking about. You guys, if you've been watching me for a while, you've seen a few of my videos in the past, maybe you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of vanity. If you eat enough plant foods, you're going to be just fine. If you avoid dairy, because dairy can't be good for your skin, but if you have a little dairy, if you have enough plant foods, you'll probably be okay skin wise. Anyway, yeah, man, just even if you eat an avocado or whatever you're eating, if it's produce, you get a little bit of variety, your skin's gonna be fine. So that really doesn't matter at all. Brain health does matter. Eating things that'll help your brain. I think we know what they are, but I'm gonna get to some other stuff here in just a sec. Um, Flexibility is important. Physical flexibility. Seeing a doctor, right? Sure, naturopath. Let me see. Um, Kind of looking at our emotions and moods and just how we're doing from day to day, and not being totally oblivious to that. Yeah, that's a big part of it. Um, okay. So I just have to say this, and let me just approach this a little differently because I know as much as I love to, talk about and look into all the different qualities of all these different individual foods, and I'll still do that in the future, sure. I do want to talk about, all the stuff that people are hearing these days that can be still make things a bit confusing in terms of what's actually really healthy for you. Now, let me just say a few things again before I get into some stuff here. Some people believe that there are. It depends on the person. Some diets are better for some people, while other diets are better for other people. Some people believe that. Well, I don't know. Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. Um, I only put a little bit of stock in that. I think it's important to look at one's age and overall physical health, as well as anything truly medical that's, again, influencing what they can or can't eat, what they, the amounts and that sort of thing, the nutritional needs. This is all important to know. I do not believe that there's really a whole lot of fluctuation, though. Not a whole lot when it comes to what is good for our bodies and what is not, what's okay. Also, what's good for our bodies, what's okay for our bodies, and what's not so okay. There really ought not to be a whole lot of fluctuation, right? Not a whole lot of debate. Not a whole lot, right? There's some discussion, sure. Some is fine, but not drastic differences. Not drastic differences. Okay. Okay, so in my opinion, we really ought to be eating vegetables every single day. Every single day. If you skip a day of eating vegetables, I think if you have some beans or some nuts or some fruit, you'll be fine. And if you skip vegetables again 2 days in a row, it's not going to kill you. If you skip vegetables for an entire week, you don't have any vegetables, none, for a whole week, but you're still eating some beans and fruits and nuts, you'll be doing okay. But you see what I'm saying? If someone were to go for a whole month with no vegetables, see, we look at there's people, and the question of what kind of vegetables we're talking about. There are many people in the world that are doing just fine, eating combination of well, when we say just fine, what do we actually mean? That's another thing too. Some people are starved for nutrients. A lot of people that are very, very slim, like in Africa, looking very healthy, good cardio shape. Some of them are doing okay. Some of them are doing outstanding. Some of them don't eat enough. Right? There's still a lot of malnutrition in Africa, and what should you eat if you're not eating a whole lot of vegetables? Though some people can't have raw vegetables. Uh, there's some people have issues with certain vegetables. Like I get it for medical reasons or whatever. But if you don't have vegetables, then definitely you should be making up that difference. I mean, if someone actually does not eat vegetables, a person should be eating, other plant foods then, fruits and berries in particular, and nuts and seeds, and beans and grains, and herbs and spices, and whatever vegetables someone can eat, they should. The thing about vegetables is that uh, it's it's the food that is, generally speaking, one of the least appetizing foods, and it's not something that we want when we're really starving, right? We'll be really hungry sometimes. Vegetables are kind of like just one of those things you just do. You just do it. Don't think about it. You just include them with, hopefully, I pretty much most every meal. It doesn't have to be excessive amounts every meal. It doesn't have to be mountains of vegetables. And by the way, you could have a plate full of vegetables and still have room for whatever else you want to eat. You can definitely do that if you're an adult. You know, um, Some things might, be really fibrous, but anyway, yeah, I mean, like you could have a salad. You could cover your plate full of salad greens or whatever vegetables. Plenty of room for other stuff. So, do we do we eat enough vegetables? No. Overall, at least as Americans, we don't. But there are many that do eat enough, and there are some that are eating in excess of what most other people in the world eat as far as vegetables. That's a really good thing. But is there ever a point to which eating a whole bunch of vegetables could be overkill? Yeah, I think if you're eating pretty much just vegetables, that's not much else. That I would say is a little bit overkill. You're probably not going to have a whole lot of muscle mass. You'll be, you might have some, but you're probably gonna be extremely. You're going to be probably more on the really lean, really lean, and you might be muscly if you work out and stuff, but you won't have very much fat on you. I mean, if you're especially if you're really active and stuff. But uh, the danger with having such a high vegetable, intake with so little other kinds of foods is there's a really good chance that you could, I mean, collapse. Most people, if you're talking about someone who 3/4 of their calories comes from vegetables, in my opinion, that's too much. Um, I don't think I know anybody who eats that many vegetables, or has that 3/4 of the daily calories coming from vegetables. That kind of person is having less than 1,000 calories a day, easy. Less than 1,000, probably closer to like only the triple digits. They're not having very many calories at all. They're not even elderly a lot of times. And I know I'm referring more to women here, but I don't see that that vegetable. You want to eat vegetables. It's a question of how much. But it is more important to eat them regularly, in my opinion, and get a variety of colors, and get the really organic, the gardeny stuff, right? But they can go bad fast, so just get them and eat them, and just don't think about it. Don't question it. If you are just starving, but you haven't had a chance to get to the kitchen, but you really aren't in the mood for a salad, it's like exercising, right? At least try to get some kind of plant food that's, you know, like a nut or seed or avocado, right? Something that's more filling, and then, maybe, a little bit of pomegranate seeds if you have some, or berries or something like that. It's, there are times I just want meat. It's those times I'm like, oh, I need to really make sure I'm, you know, getting some fiber in there, that sort of thing. Okay. So I don't care at all about all that crap that some people say about, anti-nutrients in vegetables. That's a bunch of BS. That's a crap. Don't believe it. Don't believe it at all. Um, and you can have nuts and seeds with a little bit of salt on them. That salt is good for you. You don't have too much salt if you just eat salted nuts and seeds, and you sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on your meat. That's, I think, still pretty reasonable. When you have too much salt is when you're regularly eating chips and really salty crackers all the time, and like really high salt foods. And you think you guys know what they are. If you're eating really salty foods every single meal, you're probably going to have a lot of sodium in your system after a while. And I also am talking about processed meats, anything salty. Celery's awesome for you. Celery's got naturally occurring salt. It's not going to do anything to you. I don't think salt is a huge issue, but in the United States it can be. More because there are a lot of processed foods that people are still eating that are very salty. I don't think we eat enough beans. but I personally don't think beans are as important as vegetables. But we could probably eat more beans. It's just that I don't think they're as important as nuts and seeds and vegetables overall. I think beans are, in some respects, even less important than fruit, but it's debatable. You know, beans have gotten a bad rap. You cook them thoroughly, whatever. I don't know. It's it's just that um, I don't know what's the. I guess it just has something to do with how absorbable the food is for your body. We want what we eat to be used by the body, and yeah, without being vulgar or whatever. Beans, we eat beans so we can be regular, right? So the big reason is, but we get so much fiber from other food sources. I kind of feel like if someone's eating very healthy, beans are beans are just often not needed. If you're getting pumpkin seeds, you're getting other kinds of nuts, you're getting your salads, you're getting cooked greens, you're getting an apple or whatever. You're doing just fine. You don't need also some black beans are great, sure, but uh, it's just enough. It's just like eh. Your body says, okay, too much fiber at some point. Um, I don't know. Um, you kind of almost, I feel like if I'm eating a lot of plant food, it's almost like you can only handle so much. Your stomach can only handle so much before it says, okay, I've had enough roughage. Uh, I'll burn through this and maybe more later, kind of thing, right? Um, a big salad fills up your stomach along with some nuts and things, and it's like you can also fill up your stomach with beans, which is a little more calories. Who cares about that? But it's uh, some of these trains of thought are hard to fully elaborate on, but um, it's often a question of what's our quantity like, and what ought we be eating, what we should be eating more of, and what are we probably eating a little bit too much of, really. And that's really, we should again. So we should be eating, my opinion, 2 to 3 vegetables at every single meal. And if we have only 1 or 2 vegetables in a meal, or if we only have one, we should have like some more herbs and spices going on, or something else to kind of jazz it up a little bit. It's plant food, but we don't have to have massive amounts, right? It's great to have a fruit a day, one type of fruit, 1 or 2. Beyond that, maybe not the greatest idea, but it just depends a little bit on the health of a person. Yeah, what's going on overall with a person, but 1 or 2 fruits is fine. You know, 3 is even okay, depending on the person. But when you get to the super sweet stuff, you just gotta be careful, right? Um, Depending on the person. But I think nuts and seeds and avocado and olive have as much as your calorie needs require. And nuts and seeds and avocado and olive can provide, well, you can eat a fair bit of that stuff, and it'll definitely lessen your desire to have massive amounts of, say, red meat, which we'll get to in a bit. Um, I still don't think it's very important to have dairy very often at all, if ever. I just don't think it's a food group we need. But it's a little bit here and there wouldn't hurt anybody, right? Be fine. I don't think I think grains are kind of the same deal. You just don't need them. Who needs grain? Who really needs grains when you're eating broccoli and cauliflower and collard greens and eggs, and you're eating pomegranate seeds and blueberries and cashews and pistachios and walnuts. I mean, these are all foods that have a lot of nutrients in them. You don't need that bread and rice. It just isn't needed. Getting plenty of B vitamins from, also if you're chicken, all this stuff. Just your body says, okay, enough already, right? sometimes. And you're like, okay, it's time to stop eating, right? Your body says, and sometimes, sometimes it's interesting. I've felt such high level of nutrients sometimes that you actually stop eating because you realize, oh man, I am good to go on my nutrients. I'm just not actually really wanting food right now. So you could go for most of a day without eating, and then you'd be ready to eat at some point, right? Fast for a while, right? So have your body kind of regenerate a little bit, like, oh, keep your longevity going. But because again, the more we eat, the faster we age. Isn't that weird? But so I think we should have a little bit of fish here and there, and eggs also, and poultry. When it comes to red meat, it still is a very controversial subject. I know. Personally, I think meat is okay. I just think it's so good that it might be easy to overdo it. It's kind of like really awesome tasting fruit, but it's even more of a big deal with meat because, well, it's always a question of after the pleasurable sensation of having something really tasty, how do you feel? You always feel really after having a whole bunch of meat, right? Especially if it's conventional, if it's grass fed, you don't have as much of that kind of feel. That kind of feel, you feel that way when you have a whole bunch of, I don't know, fatty cheese too. Like, you know, I can't tell you the last time I had um, um, nachos with cheese. That's not healthy, right? But it's very typical snack in the United States. It's just not healthy. Velveeta cheese is nasty, in my opinion, but whatever. But it's just, like, um, red meat serves its place. It does. It's just, you cannot be the cornerstone of someone's diet. So the diets, well, there's all these diets out there, and you guys can figure out which ones you want to do, and that's fine and good. That one diet that I cannot recommend to anybody, even if people have lost weight, even if people feel really healthy, it's the carnivore diet. It's the one. The keto diet, I think, is spectacular, but I think they're probably a little bit too strict about carbs, depending on the type of carb we're talking about, right? Because whole plant foods are just fine. Everything in its place. It's not healthy to have only beef, and even including organ meats. It just isn't the way we were meant to eat. We might have good health for quite some time, and all of a sudden we go, gosh, oh my gosh, right? Time will tell for all these carnivores what'll happen to them. It'll age them. It will age every single carnivore. Does that? Oh, raw meat's better than cooked. Eat organ meats, right? You're not doing it right. No, nope, nope. But there's so many other diets that have their great things about them. So is there really a whole lot of difference between all these different diets you hear about? Oftentimes, not really. If you're talking about Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem, we should have got to the point already where we know that anything that's processed frozen stuff, that's not what we should be eating. But it could do worse, but it's processed, right? No, it's not whole food, so um anything else I want to say this I want to say in this video. It's hard to have people change their habits. And the older you get, the harder it gets, I suppose. And I'm picturing people like in the inner city in food deserts what do they do? What can they do? They only have sometimes so much money to spend even on groceries. What can they do? What can a person do? Well, most of what a person, even for families, most of what a person, the majority of foods they're going to be buying still should be plant foods. Still try to find that lettuce, make a salad, tomatoes or something. You know, get some peanuts, get some peanut butter, get your eggs, get your chicken, right? Turkey, if you can find a turkey, awesome. You know, try to avoid the processed cold cuts. Try not to get that stuff. I know it's cheap, and maybe a little bit of pork, which is what we, would be awesome. You know, just a little bit of bacon, right? Try to get the uncured. If it's uncured is too expensive, maybe just get sausage instead. Just have it once a week. A little bit of ground beef, some potatoes if you can handle the carbs, and bananas, some apples. Yeah, you're almost there basically. And some soup. Try to and that's what some of these folks can afford. Some of you guys probably maybe even listening. That's what all what you can afford. Maybe some bread or whatever, oatmeal, and it's much better to go that route than to go the burger route or the junk food route. It'll fill you up, but you're gonna feel like crap sooner or later. You know. Anyway, hopefully you guys like this video. Leave me thoughts and comments below. Catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.